I don't know where this offseason lands them in terms of being a contender, and we'll get to that in a moment. But it's hard not to feel like the Knicks have made just a significant improvement over the last couple of weeks with some of the names that they've brought in. And I don't think it's putting them in the upper echelon of the East. They're still a step below Milwaukee and Philadelphia and certainly Brooklyn, but a team that you feel like can better compete and maybe take a next step forward into winning a playoff series or two.
Yeah, that's got to be the next goal. And I think there's not a real player out there that's going to change this Knicks team from where they are to top of the East right away. That's not something they could do in one off season, really. It's something they're building on and working on. And the next step, I think, has got to be that playoff series victory. But in terms of who they got, I mean, I really like all the moves they made, to be honest. I mean, we talked about Julius Randle a little bit. He's going to just having him back is huge. And there's something to be said about showing up in the next season after having such a successful year last year. And I think Pat O'Keefe, our interview later, he talked about this as well. There's a lot of confidence that goes into the team when they come back and see all the same guys around them. A team that had success in the regular season, that won a lot of games, and really went on a great run for this team. To have Julius Randle back, to have Derrick Rose back, Nerlens Noel. I mean, and then you got nice additions, of course, in Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. Having those guys just gives the team a ton of confidence, I think, coming from an offseason going into next year. And I think that's really going to help this Knicks team as well, because the next step, I think, really is winning a playoff series. And with Kemba Walker, that's somebody, I thought that was a really great move, first of all, because of how badly he wanted to be in New York. You know, yeah. He's from the Bronx, and that's a huge part of this as well. You want to get guys that really want to be on your team and performing. And of course, he did everything he did at Madison Square Garden for UConn. Just going back to that place and that environment, I think that's just an incredible move. You can say what you want about the knee injury, and sure, that's a little bit of a risk, but he doesn't have to play, the max amount of minutes per game. He can kind of split time. You have guys like Derrick Rose, Manuel quickly in there as well. You've got plenty of guards that can take some of the time away from Kemba Walker. That way he's eased back in to protect that knee. So, but overall, I think that's something you really have to highlight with Kemba Walker and with Julius Randle and a bunch of these players, is they really want to be in New York and play for the Knicks. And that is huge. And that environment, I think, is really going to help them find success next season.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the Kemba Walker move more so than anything else, because if they are getting what is true to form Kemba Walker health-wise, that's a guy who's averaged north of 20 points a game for, 4 out of the last 5 years, all 5 of the last 5 years. He is a guy who is an all-star for sure. I mean, is he an all-NBA player? No, he is not on that next level star type of talent. But at the same time, he's a dude you can win with. And pairing him with Julius Randle, that's a formidable 1-2 punch if you're getting that Kemba Walker. Now, that's a big if, because the health is, of course, a concern, and it has been a concern before this knee injury, too. I mean, he's been a guy who's had some of those injury issues in the past. But that is the boom or bust move that I love that the Knicks just made, because you're not committing to him for much. It's $8 million for 1 year. Absolutely a move worth making, especially for a team that's had trouble potentially attracting some of those free agents. But to get a guy who wants to be in New York, bring him into that culture, he is someone who I think fits pretty well with what Tom Thibodeau wants to do as the head coach of the New York Knicks, just mentality-wise. I think he's a guy who offers that scoring upside for them as well, which I think lacked just a little bit. I mean, Julius Randle really improved in his ability to get to the basket and score, but still not a guy who you sit there and think of as somebody who is a bona fide bucket getter, is the phrase that's always thrown around there. But a guy who can create his own shot, I think, is the most important thing. And that is absolutely Kemba Walker when healthy. He can make something out of nothing. Give him the ball with the shot clock winding down, and he's your guy who can go and score for you. So if Kemba Walker can be that guy, assuming the health is where it needs to be, I think this is a home run move for the New York Knicks. But of course, the health is something that needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah, and I think looking at the Knicks and Hawks in the playoffs last season, you kind of saw some of the Knicks' weaknesses, which is I think just shows how important it was that the Knicks played so well last year. Because just to get to that opportunity, and I know it didn't go the way a lot of Knicks fans wanted, but to get to that opportunity and see where you can make this team better in the offseason is huge. And then I think they really applied that to this offseason with Kemba Walker. Evan Fournier is another guy who is going to help shooting the basketball. He's a quality shooter. Some people say it's a little too much money for a guy like that, but I mean, he's a shooter, and he's really going to help your team. So that's another great move, I think, to surround him with Kemba Walker and Julius Randle, like we mentioned. And then we haven't even mentioned RJ Barrett as well, a guy that people could realistically see as a superstar down the road, somebody that has taken that next step, and I think will continue to grow as well, along with Randle going forward. But I think it's huge when you see a team that had an early playoff exit, but they're not satisfied with just making the playoffs. And that's obvious with the offseason that they had. They were looking to improve their team. Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker definitely do that and make this team a lot better. So going forward, the goal isn't just, let's just make the playoffs again. Let's win a playoff series. That becomes the new goal. And it has to be with what the front office has done this offseason to really prioritize the weaknesses they had last year and improving on those.
I love that you mentioned RJ Barrett too, because I think he is such an important part of the fold for the Knicks going forward. And it's similar to me, actually, as odd as this sounds, to what we were talking about with the Yankees a little bit earlier, where yes, they brought in these guys, but it's about the people who are there to begin with that are really going to matter going forward. And I think that is really what is going on with the Knicks right now, because yes, Kemba Walker has that star potential added to the fold, but again, the knee injury, you don't know. And I don't think you can count on him to be this boom proposition because you only signed him for 1 year, $8 million. And Fournier, I think, is a nice piece, but he's certainly not somebody you're bringing in to say, okay, go carry this team, score 40 points a night. That's not the type of player that Evan Fournier is, despite being a good shooter. So when you think about what the Knicks look like, it's about Julius Randle continuing to get better at 4 years, $117 million, and a great first step. And so much improvement made for him into last season. But now, can he replicate that? Can he get that much better? Can he take the Knicks to the next level? And RJ Barrett the same way, because he is a major factor as well. It'd be a 1-2 punch with Julius Randle and Kemba Walker, but how about a 1-2-3 punch if RJ Barrett can continue to get better and be a more reliable option as a scorer and put forth some of that potential to really being a more consistent player? Because you certainly saw flashes last year. RJ Barrett played some really good basketball, but at times was not that type of player. So now, can he find that consistency? Can he be a driving force behind the Knicks' success? And I think if those guys who are there, if it is the RJ Barrett, if it is the Julius Randle getting better, that's when you're going to see the Knicks take the next jump. They're going to win a playoff series. They might win two. They can be a factor in the East if the guys that they have are able to get better.
Yeah, and keeping those guys in the same locker room, in the same, I think that just gives them a little bit more confidence. So maybe Julius Randle with this new contract comes into next season knowing the Knicks want him here. He knows where he needs to improve, and that maybe will give him a little bit more confidence, especially come playoff time down the road when they really need him to step up and kind of be that leader of the team. Because like you said, sure, you'd love to see Kemba Walker be that solid 1-2 punch along with Randle, but that's not guaranteed at all. So the fact that it comes down to really putting your faith in guys like Randle, guys like RJ Barrett, just to really step up and be those leaders of the team, guys that have went through what they went through last year and all that success, and they know what they need to do to reach that again going forward. And then you got to give credit to Tom Thibodeau, because just an incredible coach and what he was able to do last year. And I think, like you said, Kemba Walker and Fournier kind of fit nicely with what Thibodeau is going to look to do and his coaching style. So I think having him at the head as well is just makes you pretty confident in the Knicks. And it's a crowded Eastern Conference. We kind of mentioned it. You know, you got the defending champion in the Bucks. You have the Nets, who, assuming they're fully healthy, are right up there as finals contenders for sure. And then you have some other teams that got better as well, like the Heat this offseason. And it goes down the list even to the Sixers. You know, the Bulls improved a lot this offseason as well. So it's a crowded Eastern Conference for the Knicks for sure. But the goal, I think, definitely has to be winning a first round playoff series. It's not the end all be all, I guess, if you go and don't win, but I think it would definitely be very disappointing considering what happened this past year and how much better they have gotten this offseason.
Where is the ceiling for this next team?
The ceiling is I'm gonna stick with a second round appearance or a first round playoff victory right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough. I think it's higher than that.
Well, I just think the Eastern Conference is really crowded. That's where it gets tricky.
I get it. I get it. It's crowded, but I feel like the Knicks have made some really good moves here.
They definitely have, and we've talked about it. I mean, we have talked about how much better they've gotten, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe you could see them winning a second round series as well, but to me, that would be So that's your ceiling for them.
Yes, that's my ceiling.
Okay. So it's not that much different. You're making it seem like it's a huge difference.
Well, I'm just saying you're trying to tell me that they're going to be out in the first round again.
No. I'm saying in a second round appearance, that's something they can do, and I think they should do. But getting past the second round for me doesn't seem like it's possible.
All right. I disagree.
You can play the tapes back. You might play the tapes back, and I could be incredibly wrong. I mean, we were all wrong about the Knicks last year. So.
I hope you are incredibly wrong. Sounds like it right now. I'm just messing with you. But still, I think that the ceiling is a little bit higher. I am really in on this Kemba Walker move, and I think that that's going to be really good for them. Can Julius Randle take the next step is obviously the question. I think he can. I think he can get a lot better just with what he showed last year. I think people forget how young Julius Randle is. I mean, he's not that young by NBA standards, but a guy who you feel like has been in the league 15 years, he's only 26, 27 years old. So he is a younger guy. I like that part of it. Can RJ Barrett get better? I think the answer is a yes and then some. So I do think the ceiling is high. I will grant you that it is a crowded Eastern Conference.